Hi, and welcome to the Keys to Therapy. Today's episode is titled 10 Things That Every Teletherapist Needs. So, I had never done teletherapy before, no virtual therapy at all, and then COVID hit, and suddenly everybody had to do it and figure out what to do, how to make it work, and all these other things. Now, there had been therapists who did virtual therapy for a while before, but the numbers were really small compared to people who did in person. So, having spent at this point the last 4+ years of being able to do therapy from home, and then when I started my own practice, it's all virtual, I really enjoy it. And I think it can be a bit of a learning curve for people who are completely used to in-person therapy. But most therapists I found, once they do telehealth therapy, they are doing virtual therapy, whatever you want to call it, they end up really liking it. So almost everybody I know at least offers a virtual option because it's so convenient to clients. And even if certain therapists have gone back in person, they still do, for the most part, some of their sessions virtually. Now, for me, I chose to stay virtual. One, because I was moving states, so I was still able to see a lot of the clients that I had previously because I kept my license active, but also to keep overhead costs down. It's honestly really nice to not have to pay for an office. And if you're just starting out, or you just either maybe want to see less clients, or you want to make more of a profit, or you just want to be in the comfort of your own home, or maybe you have something going on physically or something, hours wise, whatever it ends up being, whatever your situation is, it's really nice to have the option to be a virtual therapist. But it's not as simple as you turn your computer on and go. There's a couple different things that I highly recommend that you have in place prior to either starting a virtual practice or switching your practice over to virtual or offering virtual sessions. Any of those options, because otherwise it can seem less professional, and it can be seem, I don't know, a nice way to put it, than low budget. And you want to provide still as good of an experience to your clients as you would as if they were in person. And there's a few ways to go about doing that to make sure that the quality of the sessions doesn't suffer because it's virtual. So let's get to the list. Number 1, great computer. Duh, right? But you want to make sure that you have a solid computer. You have something that is either newer or it's updated. It functions really well. It's not overrun with different programs, games, whatever else, documents. You've got a very solid platform to use. Now, with that, there's different, there's Mac people, there's PC people, there's laptop people, there's desktop people, there's lots of different options. Within that, figure out what works best for you, right? Because it's going to be your computer that you're investing in, you're staring at all the time. So make sure you have the type of computer that's going to be best for you and go from there. But you absolutely need to have a good, high quality computer that can deal with virtual sessions all day and be reliable and utilize multiple programs if that's what you need to do. I tend to have a couple different things open at a time when I'm doing sessions. So I needed to make sure that my computer could handle that. So for me personally, I use a Mac desktop. It was an investment, but I've had Macs since 2010, so I kind of only really know that system at this point. And with having an Apple phone and an Apple laptop already, it's really nice to have the cloud where everything just can sort of follow on different computers or devices. So I really preferred that. I wanted a desktop for me because mentally that shift to a desktop, which I hadn't had probably since I was a kid, growing up with family, the home computer, I probably hadn't had a desktop since then. Actually, I've used laptops for years, but my laptop to me is more of planning trips, paying bills, shopping, stuff like that. And I wanted something that was solely a work computer. And so it really helps me feel like I'm going to work when I'm sitting in this space on this computer. The other part that kind of goes along with it is you want to make sure that the computer has a really good camera embedded in it. And if it doesn't, that you're purchasing a camera that attaches to it. So I don't like the cameras on the Mac laptops. They're very pixelated and like the picture's not so great and it's kind of like fuzzy looking, and I don't love that. But on the desktop, it's really clear. That's what I'm recording this on right now. So it's just better quality. And since I was starting my own practice, I wanted to get to set a certain standard for what my services would look like virtually. I wanted quality to be really high up there, and on private pay. So for me in my head to get around like money mindset stuff, I was like, I need to make sure that everything's quality. So for clients, I think it's really helpful because I know that the camera quality is really good. But I think for me to be like, I'm making this big investment in myself and my business, it was great for my mindset as well. So great computer that also happens to have a very good camera if possible. We'll count that as one thing, since it tends to be built in. But yeah, you definitely want that. Something else you're going to want is a really comfy chair. You are going to be sitting in the seat so much, and a regular desk chair, like a little rolly, whatever, cheap one that you usually find in most office spaces, like that's probably not going to work for consistent usage. So I think you should definitely do some research into what type of chair. What's nice is depending on your setup and your space, what you could fit in it, it's awesome to be able to find whatever works for you. So I've seen some people get like chairs that recline a little bit, and the recliner part goes under their desk, so you can't even really see it. The client won't know, as long as you're not like super leaned back. I know this chair is just like an Office Max chair, but Serta made it, like the bedding company. So it's super cushioned and it's wider at the bottom, so I could sit cross-legged if I want to, which I usually do like all day. So, finding whatever's gonna work for you. If you know you have back problems, if you know that you have, I don't know, you shift a lot, you need like a footrest, you need, there's like those under the desk hammocks that people can attach. So if you want to like put your feet up throughout the day, there's different things, but make sure that your chair, your sitting setup, whatever that looks like, is comfortable and it can sustain you for however many hours you're sitting at that desk, which is probably a lot. So I would definitely invest a decent amount in that, or go on Facebook Marketplace, or, look at like neighborhood groups and stuff like that. And you don't have to spend a ton for it to be quality. I mean, I got this with like a coupon and it was like maybe $100 or something. So nothing too crazy, but I think having been in very uncomfortable chairs in the past, it's definitely worth it to get something that you think is gonna work for you. So get a good chair. You're gonna be in it for a long time. The other piece of it is good lighting. So if you can't position your computer in front of a window, or maybe sometimes the windows, depending on like where the sun comes in or the time of day, it might either be way too light and wash you out, or it might be way too dark. So make sure you have good lighting. Now that may be lamps. I've got 2 lamps on both sides of my desk right now that are more of like the yellow warm light, which you could probably tell. And then I have a ring light that I use too. So I have that right now. And that way it's just a little bit clearer. It's not super bright, but it's also not dull or dark. I know, and I learned this the hard way working from home, that when the seasons changed, when it went to fall and the time changed back, it would get dark so early that I would be like midway through a session and suddenly it was like, well, the natural light I was relying on is gone and now it's dark, and I have to like get up and turn the light on in the middle of the session so they could still see me. So finding the lighting that works for you, you want to make sure that, again, like the picture's clear and looks professional and they can see you, and there's just no issues with that. It's not like creepy because now it's like dark, or there's weird shadows, or something like that. So just make sure the lighting's good. And you can get really cheap ring lights on Amazon, and there's small ones that'll just clip onto the top of your desktop, and you could change the lighting settings with that. Or like this one I have is like a stand-up one, and same thing, you could change the brightness, or you could change the type of light. Is it more warm? Is it more white? Is it whatever, how bright is it, stuff like that. I think there's like 3 different settings for color, and then obviously like brightness settings as well. So find something that's going to work for you so that the lighting's really good and they can clearly see you. A lot of how we communicate is not just words, it's nonverbal. So you need clients to be able to see you. And yeah, get a good light, and that will make a big change. Also, sometimes people get very self-conscious being on camera, and that can be hard for therapists who are switching to virtual or starting virtually. So if you have lighting that makes you feel good, then I think that also helps with your mindset shift too, of having to be like front facing and sometimes like seeing yourself in the corner. So it's an investment, a small one, but it'll make changes. The other part that I would suggest, and this is aesthetic, but again, it paints a picture, is have a good background. I've seen therapists that like sit in their bed all day and they have their sessions from their bed, and they've got like their pillows on both sides. They might have like their bed frame. Sometimes they might have like personal pictures, like wedding pictures or whatever. And that's just super awkward. And that makes it, to me, and this is a personal opinion, different clients have different, or different therapists have different clients with different populations and needs. So maybe it's more for their population overall. They can totally be in a bed or dressed super casually or whatever else. But I know for the image that I want to present, I see a lot of very high achieving people. I want to make sure that I'm setting up an aesthetic that I feel like conveys the mood of my practice, my style as a therapist, and also seems like I put in the work to make it seem more professional, even though I'm at my house in sweatpants. So I spent some time figuring out the background. Now, you don't have to have as busy of a background as I have. You don't have to have a lot of like little cute things. It might be as simple as like a pretty painting or nice like wall tapestry or whatever. There's so many different options, but I would say have something in the background, because if it's just a plain white wall, you could do that, but I feel like it kind of takes away from you a little bit. You know, most therapists, like the second you walk into their office, you get a feel for who they are. So make your background reflect some of who you are. And most of the time, our ideal clients are some sort of version of ourselves in some part of our lives, or we can relate to them in some way, or they can relate to us more if they see more of us being people too. And so put in those like little small touches that are reflections of you. That can be extremely helpful in building rapport. So, and then also just creating like you are in an office, even though I might be talking to them on their phone or on their laptop or whatever. So yeah, pay attention to your background and what that looks like. And sometimes if backgrounds are too plain, it gives off like just weird vibes overall. Sort of like, where are you? Like, do you live there? Like I don't know. It just looks cold. So yeah, have some stuff that's going to help like warm it up a little bit. The other thing is to make sure that you have a good electronic health record system. So since you're going to be doing everything virtually, you're not going to have clients that are in person, like signing things, filling paperwork out, and stuff like that. So invest in a very good EHR program. So I know I personally use Simple Practice, but there's tons of different ones out there where all of your documentation can be signed electronically, sent electronically. You're keeping track of appointments, notes, you're able to send reminders, like all of this stuff is in a platform. I know some people who have modified Google Workspace to basically make that an electronic health record, and they have like files and charts and notes and some different things there. So there's ways to do that. But to me, I'm more about like efficiency, and I didn't want to spend the time to do all of that. So I just use Simple Practice, and it's all built in. So I can customize forms and I can upload documents and stuff like that. That just makes it more of what I need it to be. And so that's what I use, and I really like it. So make sure if you're going to do virtual therapy, you have a system for record keeping, billing, all of that. And a lot of electronic health records have that built in. So definitely do some research on what would make the most sense for you. And a lot of them have free trials. So you can test a couple different ones out and just sort of see how it works and what interface you like the most. Another option, which is kind of related but kind of not, is you need a good video platform. You're going to do virtual therapy, but how are you going to actually talk to the clients? Like, on what platform are you going to be meeting with them? What links are they getting, or what thing do they log into to be able to talk to you? So I personally use Google Meet because I already have Google Workspace for my work email. And I don't know what it is at this point, $6 or $7 a month or something. It's really cheap. And so you can sign a business associate agreement with them, which you need for any type of platform you're going to use, and it protects you. And so using that, I just send everybody a Google Meet link. So you can make recurring links, and it's really easy because then they just log in with their Google account, and it usually auto populates. If I send them an invite, even if they don't click yes, it immediately goes into their Google Calendar. And so that's really awesome because then they don't have to go and try to find a link in an email or any of that type of stuff. Though it also does like email them the link as well. But that is something you're going to really need. How are you going to talk to them? So Google Meet is a really popular one that a lot of therapists use. Zoom is one too, but most of the time Zoom has limits on the minutes that you can use it for. And so for the free version at least, so you would have to do the paid version to have therapy like consistently on there, I think. I can't remember what the limit is, but I know it's not great for how we typically do sessions. Doxy is a free platform, and I know some therapists use that. Some electronic health records, like Simple Practice, they have a built-in system for virtual therapy, so you could use that. I think Psychology Today has one, so which you'd have to pay for the listing to be able to have access to it, but there's lots of different platforms. So pick the one that works best for you. But when you're picking one, don't just pick the one, pick your primary one and pick a secondary one. Because technology loves to be finicky sometimes. And the things I've noticed that stress me out the most and stress clients out the most when it comes to virtual therapy is the tech stuff. So they can't log into Google, or it keeps like kicking them out, or whatever the situation is. Or they don't remember their login for Simple Practice, and now like the session's delayed, or whatever the issues are. Have two different platforms. Sometimes the platforms are just a mess that day, right? Like I know a lot of people have used, say like Doxy for instance, and like that's not worked as well. Or Simple Practice has had some issues lately, and like maybe that doesn't work as well one of the days for you or for the client, or it's the actual platform. So make sure you always have a backup one and that your clients know about it. On top of that, kind of related as well, the next point would be have a system for you and your clients if there's tech issues. So if it's pixelated, the sound isn't matching up, whatever else, make sure that you're able to communicate with your client prior to the issue happening, right? Probably at the intake, to be able to say, hey, if there's ever any issues with the sound not matching up, or one of us is frozen or whatever else, you could always click out of the platform and click back in. If it's not letting you, or there's another problem, give me a call, or I'll call you, whichever way you, but set it up so you guys aren't calling each other at the same time, or email me, and or I'll email you with a link to a different platform. Have a whole system set up of like plan A and plan B, because technology is gonna do something at some point in your practice. It just is. So make sure that you and your client have a backup system, and you're informing them of what that's going to be, so you don't spend 5 to 10 minutes of the session playing phone tag or trying like multiple random things. Like, hey, if Simple Practice isn't working great, then we're going to go to Google, or whatever it ends up being. But know that plan before you need it, because it sucks when it's happening and it can create a lot of anxiety for you or for the client. So definitely have a backup plan. Another thing I would say that you would need would be, I guess, going along with technology, like internet. You need really good internet. So if you're doing this from your house, which the majority of virtual therapists are, make sure you have internet that can sustain video sessions all day, on top of having other tabs open. Or if there's other things in your house that are using it, maybe there's other people in your house who are working from home, or watching Netflix or whatever else is going on, and a lot of people are on your system. Make sure that your internet is like strong enough to withstand virtual sessions each day, that you have a good connection, and same type of concept, that you have a backup internet option. So a lot of phones have hotspots and stuff like that. So this has happened to me at least twice, I think, where the internet just completely went out, and then I'm like, oh God, what do I do? But I had already known that my phone has a hotspot, so I was able to connect that to my computer and get Wi-Fi essentially through my phone on my computer. Or the other thing that I've done as well, which sucks, it's not ideal, but if there's an emergency, you got to do it, is whatever platform you're using. So like Google, for example, download the app on your phone or your work phone if possible. And that way, if the internet goes out on your computer, you can still use your data or whatever it is on your phone to log right back into the session and not have too many disruptions or waste time on all these tech issues. So always have a backup plan for that too. It's one of the virtual therapy is so great, but it's like the biggest downside, I think, is the tech stuff. So, because in person you wouldn't face that. You would face other stuff, right? Like traffic or like weather issues or whatever else. But the tech stuff really can stress you out. So have backup options for that too, and know exactly how you're going to handle it. So you could be like, oh, okay, the internet went out. I'm going to go ahead and use my hotspot right now. So get all of that prepped and ready so you're good to go. And if you never have to use it, awesome. But if you do, you're prepared. The other thing I would say too is make sure that you have a good microphone and or headphones or whatever is going to be the most comfortable for you. So I personally don't like, I don't want to wear like headphones or AirPods or whatever all day. Like I don't want to do that. They're really uncomfortable for me in general. And so I don't use them. But because of that, I make sure that the sound is really good on my computer. And if needed, I have an extra microphone that will make sure that the sound is clear. The other thing is for you, is some therapists say, like, I noticed this with a lot of gamers, they're already used to having like headsets and stuff. So they got the headphones and the mic and they're good to go. I wouldn't want to do that for me personally. One, because it would be uncomfortable because I never have that, but also aesthetically, I don't love that. So for me, I wouldn't do that, but there's lots of therapists who do, and it works great for them and the clients that they see. And a lot of times, honestly, clients don't care that much. It's more for us. But make sure you're doing whatever's comfortable for you. So if you know that your computer maybe doesn't have the best sound, or you have issues with hearing, or you just prefer to have, like, maybe it's noise canceling headphones and you've got dogs, or maybe other people are within the home or whatever else, like, make the decision that works best for you, but definitely have like microphone, headphones, have a plan for all of that too. And I would also suggest, now saying all of that, that at some point before you meet with your first client virtually, try to do like a test run with a friend or spouse or whoever, to make sure on their end that they're far away and they can hear you well, they can see you well, the image is clear, the lighting is good, you can hear them well. Like, make sure that you run through all of that so you don't find out some of those issues the hard way when you're in a session and now it's like taking up time. So yeah, I would definitely make sure you have that. And then the last piece of it is make sure that you've got a good space to conduct sessions. Obviously, and I say this obviously, and then there's always like somebody who's doing something shady, but make sure that you have either like a separate room in your house or a separate part of a room that it is either soundproof, or you have sound machines on, so if there are other people in the home that they can't hear your sessions. You want to be able to guarantee privacy for your clients, but you also want to make sure that you're in the zone, because being at home sometimes it can be a little tricky to put yourself in work mode. So having that separate space, and like I mentioned earlier, totally separate computer if possible, or separate desk setup that you're like, okay, now I'm in work mode. I brought my laptop to my work desk, or I am dressed in a work shirt or whatever it ends up being. That, you know, my ring light is set up. Like, all of these things are cues to us that we are in work mode. And sometimes you need that more when you're at home, especially if like 10 minutes before you were just like on the couch watching TV, or you took your dogs on a walk and now you've got to mentally switch over to being a therapist. It's very helpful to have all of those cues, but you need to feel safe and you need to be able to guarantee that safety to your clients. So having either, like I said, a separate office space or a space within your home that is fully private, that has some sort of soundproofing. There's different tiles and things I've seen people use. not like glass tiles, but like those big square things, like they look like ceiling tiles that people have put up in their space to make it more soundproof. I've seen people with multiple sound machines outside their door to be able to give themselves that type of privacy. Like I said, sometimes like the noise canceling headphones can be helpful. A lot of platforms now for virtual therapy, they block out a lot of your background noise and hone in on your voice. So that's really helpful. Make sure those settings are on if that's something you have to manually turn on in your platform. But I think that one is key because it's really off-putting, and I've seen these complaints before from clients, to meet with a therapist virtually and it sounds like their kids are in the room, or you hear their spouse coughing, or their TV's on. Or God, I've seen stories where people have like been in their therapy session and all of a sudden, like they're the client and on the therapist screen, somebody's like walking behind the therapist, or the therapist is sitting in a coffee shop and they're doing the session from there. You know, it's already weird if a client wants to do that, and you got to like really encourage the privacy aspect for them. But for therapists to do that, it's like on another level. So you want to make sure it's safe for the clients to open up, because you're going to have sessions where people are breaking down and they're very vulnerable and they're, you know, sharing things. And even if it's a happy day and they're laughing and joking, like you don't want to pull them out of being present in the session because you're not in a secured space. So that is definitely got to be up there too for importance. But I know that's a lot of stuff, but a lot of them relate, and a lot of them are things that you probably already know or have thought about. It's just a matter of putting them all together, so that way you can really set yourself up in the best way possible to be able to be the best therapist that you can be in a virtual setting and get all of the benefits from that, but also to provide that type of like security, safety, professionalism, all of that to the client as well, so they don't feel like the quality of their therapy has gone down because they're doing it from their bed versus them getting dressed and going to your office. So yeah, hopefully all of that helps, and you can run through and start checking off the things that you have, or rethinking your setup if any of those things ring true. Maybe you do have a super plain background and you're like, I've been a little bit nervous to put some of my favorite things up there, but I'm gonna do it. And like I said, they're conversation starters. You know, you'll randomly have a client be like, oh, what is that? Or where did you get that? And it builds rapport, and it's just cute. Makes us a little more human and relatable, which is nice. So yeah, hopefully you can get your telehealth set up good to go, where you're happy, the clients are happy, and your days just run smoothly. So good luck to you guys. If you want to follow along with future videos, go ahead and subscribe below, and I will see you next time. Bye.